Oh, hello, welcome to day 6 of Walks and Talks, where a guy and his Fitbit march to their 10,000 steps goal. Guys, today, in fact, just like 30 or 40 minutes ago, Hengda Real Estate, which is part of Evergrande, the company in China that has been causing all sorts of hubbub and talk on fintech and news media as to the reason why we're experiencing volatility. They made an announcement. Apparently, it was reported by News Squawk on Twitter. That's where I read it. That they're going to be able to make their interest payments that are due tomorrow, their onshore bond coupon payments. And just like that, the market spiked. The SPOOs, NQ, YM, RTY, everything spiked. Okay. I mentioned yesterday that this whole Evergrande saga should not be impacting the US in my view. Okay? It is a China problem, and it is a problem that the PBOC is able to solve on their own, in my view, just like we've solved our problems here going back to 1988. Okay? Our central bank will step in and do what they must to make sure that everything gets stabilized. They'll do the same over there. Most likely, no guarantees, obviously. We don't know what the future holds, but we can assume things based on, past actions that have taken place throughout the world, not just in the US, but other parts of the world as well. Central banks tend to step in. And so that should not have been impacting us, but a lot of the hubbub that was reported in the news was trying to point to that instead of other issues as to the reason we're experiencing volatility, issues such as inflation. Okay, that's still out there. That's not settled yet. That matter, in my view, is not settled. Anyway, so I still have about 3,200 steps until I hit my 10,000 goal for today. So I may or may not make it, but I've made it every other day this past week. I also want to talk about commodities today again, particularly coffee. Very popular commodity. Everybody that I know drinks coffee. Hard to run into people that don't. Even those who don't will say we'll drink decaf just so that they can join the party, if you will, quote unquote. I just did air quotes there. So in any case, why do I want to talk about it? Because we're having a shortage. Where? In Brazil. Happens to be the largest producer of Arabica coffee. 40% less production this year than they had last year. That 40% number, guys, essentially is 2/3 of the coffee that we consume here in the US. Okay? 75% of all coffee production is essentially Arabica coffee, and Brazil is the place that is responsible for producing most of it. Okay? It's the country. So, what could happen? Or first, let's talk about why it happened. So Brazil is blaming this primarily on the weather. Some of that blame they're shifting onto this being their off year. So, essentially the crop alternates. So one year it gives you a lot of produce, another year it gives you less produce. This year happens to be less produce, okay? But it also is a climate issue, according to them. They're saying that in July, they had frosts and freezes in July, and they had lots of drought in various areas of Brazil, which they're not accustomed to. And so because of those reasons, they were unable to get to a higher production number. So what's the worst case scenario? Well, we could end up paying more for coffee. But let's just assume you own a Starbucks. Okay, if you own a Starbucks and you are trying to make a profit, right? You didn't do this business just so that you can, meet the need of coffee drinkers in your area. You wanted to also make money, okay? So, which is fine. And imagine if right now coffee's traded at about 183. The 52-week high on it is about 215. Imagine if it jumped to $500 or $600 for the coffee contract, okay? Imagine if Starbucks looks at that and says, gee, you know, we're gonna have to raise our prices to $11 a cup. You know, I mean, would you still go? So, you know, it comes to reason that you may not buy that, and you may in fact never step foot into Starbucks again. Fearing that foot traffic loss is something that would keep every executive of Starbucks up at night, okay? They'd rather tell you, we're out of coffee, come back tomorrow, we're out of stock or sold out, okay? As opposed to telling you, oh, it's $11. They'd rather not do that, okay? Simple reason is because they still want you to go in. You could buy other things, right? You could buy tea, you can buy other things, breakfast, right? You can buy a banana for $1 or whatever it is now, okay? But I mean, you can buy other things. And so they would still survive, though to a lesser degree, but they would still survive, okay? Charging you $11 for a cup of coffee, you know, you may never go there again. Or you may just stop drinking coffee there altogether, and you might say, you know what, I'm gonna find a cheaper alternative. I'll just make it at home, put it in a nice thermos, and take it to work with me, all right? Forget this whole standing, you know, waiting in line at Starbucks, you know, with every other car in the morning to try to get my coffee. And so that's one potential scenario. I mean, we've had scenarios like that, though in the US, we're not accustomed to that, okay? In other parts of the world, they're quite accustomed to it. In parts of this world, unfortunately, someone could go to the supermarket, tell the clerk, the cashier, whatever, the person who's working there, and say, look, where are your eggs? And they could be told, we're out of eggs. We don't anticipate getting any more eggs until next month. And the person there would say, oh, okay, cool. Because they're accustomed to that, okay? We are not accustomed to that here in the US. We're not accustomed to that in large parts of the world, okay? But there are parts of the world that they are accustomed to that. Here, we experience that, for example, with toilet paper, okay? We experience it with toilet paper. And you saw what happened at the supermarkets, right? Old ladies were hitting each other, and they were like, you know, getting into physical altercations over toilet paper. You know, they were hogging up whatever toilet paper was there so that nobody else gets the toilet paper. Okay, I'm laughing, but that's what was happening. It's sad that, you know, that was happening. But could you imagine that happening again? Okay, that could happen again. It's not out of the realm of possibility that that doesn't happen with coffee or other commodities. Now, I don't obviously have a solution, nobody does, to what a shortage of a commodity would do, but I do know this, that climate weirdness is happening. I'm not going to go further than that. I'm just going to leave it at that. In my view, it's weird. You know, parts of, you know, here, there are days where I'm anticipating like, oh, it's going to be really hot today, and it ends up being like 65 degrees. I live in Los Angeles, okay? And it's just weird, okay? The weather is definitely weird, and having weird weather is definitely going to be something that is going to impact our agricultural produce throughout the world. And that's something that may cause shortages. Now, you'll notice that a lot of people, if you go to YouTube and you search for things like how to grow whatever, you know, pick a vegetable, pick a fruit, you're going to see a huge spike in viewership of those videos. I mean, it's in the millions, okay? Where before, even though people who have put out those videos, you're like, where is all this traffic coming from, okay? People are sensing that. People are sensing that, you know, things are different, okay? Things are different. It's hard to explain it because we don't know really what's happening, but things are different. We have, obviously, all the climate people are going to say, this is our fault, etc. We have to do something. Carbon, this, like, I don't want to get into that whole political, because that's political really at this point. I could tell you that it's something that people have noticed, and they've taken steps and measures. Like, a lot of people are using the space that they have in their backyards, in their front yards. I saw that Again, people were planting in their front yards, okay, not in the backyard, not only in the backyard, I should say, just so that they can have more space, more room to be able to plant things. People are noticing that, and it's going to make an impact, I think, going forward on prices, on availability. You know, there are people in this country that don't care about the price, okay? They're well off. When they go to the supermarket, they don't even look at the bill. Like, they don't even know how much. If I were to ask them, how much do you pay on average per month when you go to the supermarket? If you go to, I don't know, Albertsons or whatever, how much would you pay, Trader Joe's? They wouldn't be able to tell you, okay? They don't even know because they don't care. So it doesn't really make that much of an impact. It doesn't concern them until they're out of the product that they're looking for. So it will concern them when they go to the market and they go, I'd like to get coffee. They go to the coffee outlets, the whole thing is empty. That would shock them, okay? That would completely shock them. They're not used to that. See, like I said, in different parts of the world, they're very accustomed to that. They look at it, it's an empty shelf, they understand. They're used to this, okay? We are not. Here in the United States, we're not used to that, okay? And that will shock them. We experienced that here for a limited period when this thing, COVID, broke out, right? We did experience that, and we saw what happened. Like, it was weird, right? People just hoarding this stuff, like hoarding toilet paper and just buying tons and tons of it. And you would think that they were worried about themselves. They weren't. They were selling it on eBay and other places, okay? Which isn't cool, guys. So that's what they were doing. You know, not understanding the ramifications of what they've done, you know, will cost, you know. You can't just think of, like, that's not the way to run a business, okay? First of all, that's not a lasting model, just from a purely business perspective. But second of all, that's immoral and unethical. You shouldn't be doing it that way, okay? If you have to do it that way, you're not a very good business person, not just from a ethical standpoint, you're just not very good at business, okay? You have to force them to pay you more. That's not the right way to handle business, okay? That means you're not meeting a need, you're forcing it. You're like kind of like strong-arming them like the mob, okay? That's not the right way to do things. But it's something to keep in mind and to bear in mind that if this keeps happening, then, you know, we're going to experience higher prices on a variety of different stuff, from rice to coffee, as I just mentioned, to anything that's an agricultural commodity, pork, poultry, anything, okay? It's going to keep going higher and higher and higher. This is what I kept saying, that inflation is a worry. I've said that in several of these videos here. That's a worry of mine, and I think it's a worry of a lot of people out there, that they're seeing it, and not because of the bills that we have pending, not because of that at all. I see the, like, not the $3.5 trillion or whatever, it's going to be $2 trillion, the $550 billion infrastructure, none of that stuff, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm referencing real inflation where the consumer is asked to pay double, triple what they would have normally paid. Moreover, putting fear into the consumer when they walk into a market and the market tells them, look, we're out, the shelves are empty. That puts fear, that strikes fear in everybody. That's when you get the long lines of people trying to buy stuff. They fill up 4 or 5 carts at a time. That's, you know, that's when people get really nervous, okay? And that's really bad. So this is something that we have to be very careful from a worldwide perspective. This is where the world has to work together. The leaders of the world have to really work together on a common goal of making sure that politics does not step into this equation, okay? You can't make this political. You can't say, if you're nice to me, then, you know, I'm going to make sure that you get enough whatever. That's not how it works, okay? You can't do it, not now. We're all going to pay the price for that, all of us, okay? So that's not something that anybody should even consider. All right, that's something that we as the people have to be very active to keep that in the forefront of our elected officials' minds, because if we don't, they don't care. Remember, a lot of these elected officials get the stuff that they should be concerned about directly from lobbyists. Literally, they don't have contact, nor do they care with anybody else about what other people are going through. They don't have contact with them. So their messages are, one way. So they'll speak to you on Twitter. Okay, it's a one-way thing. They're telling you what's happening. They don't really care about your comments. They're not really even reading most of it. Okay. The people they've got their ears are the people that are lobbyists. They're paid lobbyists. So they're out there fighting for their employers. And what we need to do is to make sure that we are being heard as much as possible. Anytime somebody has a town hall meeting, one of these, elected officials has those, that you need to be there and you need to let them know that these are issues that you're concerned about and that they have to take action. Okay? And tell them, look, I'm not a lobbyist, but I can vote, and I do vote. And if you want my vote, and if you want me to campaign for you, then this is what I want. Make it very clear. So they act. All right? This is stuff that we do have to be active about. Okay? I'm not saying go crazy, extremist or anything like that. Just have that on your agenda of things to do. Okay? Don't let somebody else handle that, because somebody else is a lobbyist who only cares about their employer. So we have to take that step and make sure that we're being heard, that our votes are being counted, because our votes matter. Okay? They absolutely matter. They need our votes. So don't let this be, he's a Democrat, he's good. He's a Republican, he's good. No. Okay? It's, what are they doing? What are they doing? Okay? Don't go by the name. Name doesn't solve anything. Okay? What are they doing for you and for your family and for your society, for your area? What are they doing for your city? Okay? What are they doing for your state, for your county? What are they doing for you? That's what matters. Okay? Don't just say he's a Republican, Democrat, he's independent, he's Green Party. I don't care about labels. Doesn't help. Okay? So that's all I have to say. And 2,200 more steps left for today. That's it. I'm signing out, guys. The rest of this stuff is going to be filler. So take care. God bless.